So, I finally bought a Steam Deck, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my honest opinion if it's still worth buying in 2026. This is the 512GB OLED version and I bought it off Steam's official website. I've had it for a little while now and I'm not going to be reading every spec off a sheet, I just want to talk about what it's actually like to use day to day and what I think it does really well, what I don't like and whether I think it's still worth buying. First of all, let's talk about the build quality. When you pick it up, the Steam Deck feels really solid. It's definitely on the bigger side, but it doesn't feel cheap or toy-like at all. It grips and fits nicely in the hand, the weight is balanced and nothing feels loose or rattly. You don't get that feeling where you're scared to twist it in case it creaks or cracks. The joysticks feel firm and responsive, the triggers are smooth, the buttons don't feel cheap, and the back buttons are in a good spot once you get used to them. The trackpads are actually more useful than I expected, for navigating menus, strategy games, or anything that needs a mouse-style pointer. They make life a lot easier. Overall, I was very impressed with the build quality of the Steam Deck. I also want to mention the case, because honestly it's really impressive. The official case it comes with feels sturdy and well made. The outside is a firm shell so it doesn't feel like it's going to get crushed in a bag, even though this is a carry case so it's quite large and is meant to be carried by itself, or use the strap on the back to attach to your suitcase, for example, if you are travelling. The zip comes with 2 holes for it if you want to put a padlock on it for extra safety, or if you don't want your significant other to see what anime games you've been playing. This case just really gives you that confidence that your device is protected, and it's free. Next, let's talk about the screen and audio. The big upgrade with this model compared to the cheaper Steam Deck is obviously the OLED screen, which is 7.4 inches, with support for up to 90Hz. Blacks are actually black, colours pop more, and anything with darker environments or high contrast horror games, space games, cyberpunk style games really benefit from it. When you go back and look at an LCD screen after using this, you really notice the difference. Brightness is solid for indoor use. I've had no issues playing on the sofa, in bed or in a room with normal lighting. Outside, like any handheld, it's not perfect, but the OLED screen definitely helps compared to an LCD screen. The speakers are front firing, clear and loud enough that you don't feel like you have to use headphones. You're not getting home theatre quality obviously, but for handheld gaming they do the job really well and don't sound thin or tinny. Now moving on to the gaming experience and performance. Performance wise, this is still a portable PC, so you have to be realistic with expectations, but for what it is, it's very capable. Indie games, smaller titles and older games run really well. You can usually push them to 60 FPS without too much tweaking, and sometimes even higher if you don't want to use the 90Hz screen. There's tons of videos on YouTube to help you if you want to tweak things that will go into more depth. It genuinely does look great, and I have really enjoyed using this while travelling places, and my hands didn't feel strained or ache whatsoever after long gaming sessions. I do want to mention that this has happened to me a few times where games won't start up and my keyboard doesn't work and I had to fully restart the deck, but it's not a major issue. One of the nicest things about the Steam Deck is the library. If you're comparing it directly to something like the Switch 2, the big difference is on the deck you have access to a massive library. Everything you bought over the years, all the sales, random games you grabbed for a few dollars, they're just there. You're not locked into one store with high prices or limited selection. The choice of games is huge, and that alone makes the device feel very flexible. The suspend and resume feature is also an underrated function. You tap the power button, it goes to sleep, tap it again and you're straight back into your game where you left off. It makes it feel more like a console, less like a PC you're constantly booting up and shutting down. Controls and actual gameplay feel good. First person shooters can work well if you tweak sensitivity, maybe add some gyro aiming. Games that normally rely on a mouse, strategy, city builders, management games are more manageable thanks to the trackpads and the option to use different control layouts. Not every game is perfect out of the box, some need small tweaks, but let's be real, you're not buying a Steam Deck to run nothing but AAA games. You'll probably use your PC or PS for those really demanding games, but that is something to bear in mind when buying a Steam Deck. But for the most part, a surprising number of games are very playable, and then obviously you get those that you can't play whatsoever. Let's talk about the battery life, because that's always a question with handheld PCs. The OLED model has a larger battery than the original, and Valve quotes 3 to 12 hours depending on what you're doing. In real use, I'd say roughly heavy AAA games, higher brightness, no frame cap, around 1 to 3 hours. Indie, older titles with a frame cap and sensible settings, around 3 to 6 hours. Very light stuff, low intensity games or just browsing, potentially longer. It's not all day battery, but you have a lot of control. You can lower the refresh rate, cap the frame rate, reduce the power draw and drop the brightness a bit, all of which can stretch things out quite a lot. If you're expecting it to last an entire day of constant AAA gaming away from a charger, that's not realistic. But for a mix of shorter sessions, commutes or playing around the house where you can plug it in if needed, it's decent for the kind of hardware it's running. A small note on software, SteamOS and tinkering. The software side is a big part of the experience. SteamOS has improved a lot. The main interface is simple, library store settings similar to a console dashboard. It boots straight into that gaming mode so you don't feel like you're dealing with a full desktop every time. The good things, installing and managing games through Steam is very straightforward. You get updates, cloud saves, achievements, all the usual Steam features. You can also switch to desktop mode if you want to, and at that point it basically behaves like a small PC. You can install other launchers, emulators, or even use it for light desktop tasks if you really want to. The trade-off is that sometimes games will need a bit of tinkering, maybe a specific title needs a compatibility option changed or a launch parameter, or you have to look up a quick fix online. If you enjoy messing around and customizing things, that's fine. If you just want everything to be plug and play with zero tinkering, most games are, but it's something to keep in mind. The 512GB OLED model sits in the middle of the lineup in terms of price and storage. This model cost me £479. You've got enough space to have a good mix of games installed, a few bigger titles plus plenty of indie or smaller games without immediately feeling cramped. You can also add a micro SD card if you need more space, which is easy and works well for most games that aren't constantly streaming data. Compared to something like the Switch 2, the value conversation is interesting. On the Switch, you're largely buying into Nintendo's ecosystem and their exclusives. On the Steam Deck, you're buying into your existing PC library and the flexibility of PC gaming. If you already have a decent Steam library, the Deck starts to look like a pretty good deal. You're effectively unlocking a portable way to play all of that. I think the Switch 2 is great, but there really is no comparison in how big the Steam library is and the amount of sales which Steam has on games. If you don't own many PC games and you mostly play big console releases, it becomes a harder decision, and it depends more on whether you like the idea of getting into PC style gaming. So after spending time with the Steam Deck, do I think it's worth buying in 2026? For me, absolutely. The combination of a really nice OLED screen, solid build quality, a surprisingly good case, and access to a huge library of games makes it feel like a very capable system. It's become my go-to for playing smaller games, older titles I never really got round to, and some AAA games when I'm not in the mood to sit at a desk. It's not perfect, the battery can drain fast on demanding games, some titles need tweaks or just don't behave properly, and you have to accept that this is still a PC under the surface, with all the flexibility and occasional headaches that come with it. If you like the idea of having your Steam library in your hands, don't mind tweaking a few settings now and then, and want something that feels like a proper bit of hardware, I think the Steam Deck OLED is a really strong option. If you've got any questions I didn't cover or you already own a Steam Deck and want to share your thoughts, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be doing a video soon comparing the Steam Deck to the Nintendo Switch 2, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and if you found this useful, consider dropping a like or subscribing. It honestly helps more than you think.